Hello, welcome to the video. Before you do anything else, make sure you get yourself a cup of tea or coffee. If you need to pause the video, pause it now and then come back with your tea and coffee. And then I'll explain how we have developed our Simply Collective Worship resources for your school. So Simply Collective Worship was birthed out of a conversation with a head teacher many years ago. Well, no, many years ago, a few years ago. The teacher asked me, I was the RE advisor for a couple of local authorities in North Wales, having previously taught in secondary schools, RE head of department in a couple of secondary schools. They said, "Oh, is there a scheme of work for collective worship? Is there something that you can use from September through to July that would have everything that you need broken down into sort of weekly themes?" And I looked around and hunted, and I couldn't really find any resources. There's lots of resources out there for one-off acts of daily collective worship, but there wasn't anything that brought it all together. And it got me thinking, and I wondered if I could actually have a go at creating a scheme. And what we developed over the course of time was a 4-year scheme of assemblies for, initially we'd created them for the whole of the primary school. So there were a 4-year scheme, and initially you could say you could probably repeat the 4 years twice. Children lower down the school would get something different from it. Children higher up the school could discuss the content and reflect on it more deeply. And actually what we've ended up doing is we're adapting the resources that we created, the 4-year resources, for an infant school setting for 3 to 7s. So what we've done is the 4-year cycle that the Simply Collective Worship is now securely a sort of a 7 to 11 aged resource. So behind me, I've got the resources. These are them printed out. It's important to note that we don't send out printed resources. We only ever send out electronic resources. But when we've been doing shows and stuff, it's very difficult to show people basically what you get substantially. I mean, this is a year's worth of stuff, not just a Monday, but a Monday to Friday, 39 weeks worth of stuff. Big Monday assembly that you can do for the whole school. If you wish, you can obviously do it in a smaller setting. And then 4 thoughts for the day that can be done in your classroom with individual classes, or you can do them with sort of cross-year groups, etc. It's up to you how you were to do it. But in printing them, so there are 4 years worth, or 4 cycles worth in the 7 to 11 resource. And so in printing them, I could show people at shows, and it's useful for this video because it gives you a good idea of what the resources look like. But if I then move over to sharing my screen, I can show you what the resources would look like in the way that you would get them. So on the screen, hopefully you can see there, you've got Pals, Perseverance and Plundering Pirates. This is cycle 4 of our 4-year cycle. This is the one for when I'm doing this particular video, 2023, September, October. No, we're in October now. This is the one that schools are currently using. Next year, they'll use cycle 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you can continue just to repeat that cycle. And obviously the children will never receive 2 assemblies, the same assemblies twice, because they're going through the cycle. They'll sort of receive it one at a time. So this is the resources, is the front page. As you can see, there are 39 weeks worth of stuff on here. So that's 1 theme per week, starting with Pirate Treasure. You'll notice there are cultural days things in there. St. Andrew's Day, Diwali's in there, something around Halloween, Harvest is there, Christmas, Hanukkah. And over here, you've got a couple of other festivals, Holi, Holi, Easter's mentioned, Vaisakhi. So there's a whole host of themes in them. And what you can do then, if I scroll through to the next page, I've broken them down roughly into the different terms. So for autumn term, week 1, you'll start with Pirate Treasure on the Monday, possibly on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then you've got the following week. And so they're all of the assemblies, but broken down, and each one's given a little snappy title. So if I take you to Pirate Treasure, there is a couple of pages about pirates, and this one is related to the idea that pirates gave up everything for treasure. They gave up a different type of life. They settled for a life on the sea because the treasure was their treasure. And so I go into this idea that actually whatever you treasure will have a big impact on how you develop your life. What you do generally tells me about what you treasure and what you consider to be important and what you think is important to you. And actually, when you look at other people, you can see what's important to them. You can see what they treasure by the things that they spend their time and their effort and their energy and their money getting, doing, whatever. And then on the Tuesday, there's sort of, it goes into a little bit more depth. You can see in terms of contents, that's 2 pages, sort of a good 10 minutes worth of stuff that you could then do in a whole school assembly. This is a 5-minute reflection that's probably more likely to be done in your classroom. There are time to reflect, the reflection questions. What do you treasure? How can it be seen in your actions? What do your friends treasure? How do you know? What can you see in them? If I go back to the themes, every so often within the theme, there'll be a link to other resources. So if I allow this to sort of open, this is a Christmas chaos. The basis of the assembly is that Christmas, the original Christmas, would have been a very noisy affair. There'd have been lots of animals. There were like people wandering in and wandering back out again. It would have been a pretty chaotic experience, I think, for Mary and Joseph. And actually, one of the things that we want to do in the assembly is give that idea that Christmas isn't a quiet and peaceful. We want it to be quiet and peaceful, but often it's not. And so therefore, as you read the story, every time you hear these things mentioned, people have to make the noise of a sheep or a donkey or an ox, or they have to sing a particular carol or whatever. So it's quite a chaotic affair, and children hold these up. When they hear the word donkey, they'll hold up donkey, and everyone makes the donkey noise. So it's a nicely chaotic Christmas assembly. So I'll go back to the resource. Here we go. And so a lot of the resources, if they are linked, they're linked directly in there. You can download them from a click. And that's why the paper resource isn't always the easiest then, because how do you find the links? The website address is there, and I've included them on a calendar link from my website where you can access them from the calendar if you haven't got access directly to the computer. But the resources are all there for you to use. We've got a planning document. So this is our website here. So simplycollectiveworship.co.uk. I've also bought the domain name feelgoodassemblies.com, and the assembly, the websites mirror each other. So you can access exactly the same stuff on both of them. So if I click onto the downloads here, I'll just show you the planning document, because this is really, really useful. So I've got my Feel Good 3 to 7 resources and my 7 to 11. So we're focusing on Simply Collective Worship 7 to 11. You'll notice there's a sample resource that people can download. There's a Welsh version as well that people can download. And the planning for this year, I can access by clicking on that link. There's a bit of an overview page to tell you what the planning consists of and how it can help you. And then you've got these columns here. So there's the week and sort of suggested dates. As I said, we're in September 23. That's for this particular year. The statutory requirements, we're still in a position where collective worship is a statutory requirement, and so I've referenced any sort of Bible verses or statutory content explicitly. So if anybody asks, that's where it is. Other content that will be useful for the school. Links to SEAL, it's getting a bit old now, but some schools still use that, social and emotional aspects of learning, and so actually the headings still relate if the schools are using those. And then this is a useful column, the values that you might want to instill in your children and how it relates to the bigger picture. And then I've put SMSC, Pirate Treasure, It's got a spiritual aspect, it's got a moral aspect, it's got a social aspect, it's got a cultural aspect. By doing that particular week, you're hitting S, M, S, and C. And then if it's just a spiritual or social, you notice number 2, it's more around the spiritual and the social. There's not really a conversation around morality or cultural aspects to that. And so that's useful from a planning point of view. And then if you scroll through, it takes it term by term with the planning. One other thing that's useful here is if you decide you want to fit in the themes to your own planning. So rather than taking my program, you can use the resources but in your own sort of themes, or you might do a half-termly theme on friendship, or a half-termly theme on teamwork. Actually, what you can do is you can scroll down to teamwork. What's teamwork? It's number 10. So if I scroll down to number 10, and there are 3 assemblies, a week's worth of stuff. So that's 15 assemblies, if you like, on Team Sheep, The Power of Few Letters, and Chorus and Quails. Nice sort of catchy headings. But if you go to cycle 1, week 12, cycle 3, week 12, and cycle 4, week 26, you'll be able to access those. That does require, though, you need to purchase all 4 years worth of cycles, all 4 cycles, rather than just a yearly cycle. The final thing that I'd like to show you then that will complement that is this multimedia section here. If you go onto the website and onto the multimedia and scroll to, there's one for the 3 to 7 resources, one to the 7 to 11. If I click on Simply Collective Worship, it brings up a page. Fingers crossed it'll work. There it is. And you've got resources that complement from around the huge universe that is the internet. These are things that can support. I've not created them, but they are things that you may be able to use to support the thematic plan or the themes. And then on the right-hand side, I've just put other notable dates. So if there's anything that's worth mentioning, there's a lot of UN days, there's a lot of other religious and cultural festivals that take place. And so where they're appropriate, I've included them there, and where I can find links, I've put them there as well. So please feel free, download there's a sample resource if you're not using them already. Feel free to download the sample resource and have a look. Yeah, have a look at the calendar. The calendar will be useful for anybody at any time, not just for the people using these resources. So hope you enjoyed your tea and coffee, and hopefully I'll see you in another video. Right, ta-ra.